It was 10 till 8 when I noticed it had started raining. I grabbed my raincoat from the front closet, zipped it up all the way, and stepped outside, greeted by a misty darkness. The light was out on the front of my building, but the streetlights reflected off rain-soaked pavement that rippled into the night, bouncing around the soft warmth of headlights and the cool, gleaming neons of the shop at the corner. 8 p.m. A few cars drove by. One stopped briefly, a rideshare, but it was quickly greeted by a girl in platform heels who ran giggling from her apartment next door, holding her purse above her head to keep her hair from getting wet. 8:05. Nothing but me in the rain. The voice on the other end of the line earlier had sounded a bit arcane, but not insincere. Still, maybe I was being put on. I decided I would give it a few more minutes. 8:07. By now I had decided I was an idiot and a gullible one at that. I shuffled back to the door of my building, put the key into the lock, and was mentally already crawling into my bed when I heard a car pull up behind me and stop. I turned around. It was a deep, wine-red town car. The license plate, HE11CA8. Hellcab. The windows were tinted dark as midnight, and as I approached the car, the passenger side window screeched open, but only enough to let a wisp of cigar smoke dance out into the night. And then a curt voice shot out from the crack in the window. "If you're going to the pet shop, get in." This was not the voice from the phone. This was raspy, rough. The phone voice was more refined. It had a certain antiquated manner and a subtle lilt to it, even while giving the impression of boredom. It sounded like a warm fire and good scotch. This one was more like gravel and many late nights at the same smoke-filled bar. I heard the click of the back doors unlock, and I'm not sure whether it was out of curiosity or desperation, but I reached out, opened the door, and got in. Surprisingly, the car didn't smell overwhelmingly of cigar smoke, but that's probably because the partition was up and it was even darker than the windows. Curiously, the windows were tinted both inside and out, so I had no idea where we were going. That's when I started to get a little nervous. The ride was short, about 15 minutes, and the driver never said another word. Then the car stopped, the doors unlocked, and I stepped outside. That's when I really got nervous. No sooner had I shut the door behind me than the driver sped off into the night, leaving me standing alone in the rain in an unfamiliar and desolate industrial section of town. 2 streetlights, a dumpster, and what appeared to be an auto scrapyard flaked the brick warehouse that stood before me. A light was glowing above the entrance, but it had a red bulb that cloaked the thick steel door of the building in an ominous air. The length of the factory windows along the front had sections punched out, like a smile with the missing teeth. And from what I could tell, there wasn't a single light on the inside. It looked completely abandoned. I scanned up and down the block. This had to be it, so I tested the door. It opened, and I walked in. I was greeted by a hallway, long and narrow, dimly lit by buzzing fluorescence overhead. At the end of the hall was a red door, and on the door in a familiar cursive handwriting were these words: Mr. Belial's Emporium of Foul and Exotic Creatures. As I was about to knock, the door opened. "Hello," the voice from the phone. But this time, it came with a face. A tall, slender man with a subtle potbelly stood in the open doorframe. He was probably in his late 60s, with deep wrinkles on his brow and a receding hairline to show for it. He had a short, neatly trimmed beard that was much more salt than pepper, and his silver hair, what was left of it, was neatly combed back. "Hello, Mr. Belial? Mr. Belial?" I reached a hand out. He did not extend his. "Oh, certainly not. Mr. Belial is the owner of this establishment. I'm more the caretaker, for now anyway." He waved me inside, eyeing my shoes as I crossed the threshold into the shop. I am Dr. Marlow. Nice to meet you. We already know, and frankly, it doesn't matter. We? He stopped me just inside the door. Assuming tonight goes without incident, you can expect to be picked up every night at 8 p.m. with the exception of Sundays, which you have off, and every Friday 13th. Dr. Marlow draws a breath as if to elaborate, but pauses instead. We are closed on Friday the 13th. He looks at me suspiciously and then resumes. You will be dropped off at your place of residence every morning at 6 a.m. When you get into the car to return home, your wages will be waiting for you. You will be paid in cash, $70 per hour. Losses come out of your wages, and the company is not liable for any harm that may come to you during your shift or otherwise as a result of taking this position. Do you understand? I stammered. Yes? Good. With that, I was led into the shop, which wasn't an abandoned warehouse after all. In fact, it was rather nice. It had the feel of an old university library or a hunting club. I dried the bottom of my old trainers on the welcome mat. It read hello in a Gothic script. Nice touch. Dr. Marlow looked at my shoes again and grumbled. I looked down at my shoes too, trying to figure out what was wrong with them. Then I noticed his shoes. Big, thick leather boots in a rich oxblood red. You said closed-toed, so I shrugged. They'll do, but I recommend your first payment to buy steel-toed boots, he mumbled. Just inside the entrance was a hat stand. A raincoat that I presumed to belong to Dr. Marlow hung on the rack. A couple umbrellas leaned against the wall in the corner, and a few feet to their left was a large executive desk. The shop was not particularly well lit, but an antique baker's lamp splashed a warm glow upon the top of the desk and reflected golden in the metal of an old cash register that I assumed was there more for aesthetic reasons than functional ones. Hang your coat and join me at the desk. He gestured to the rack. I hung my coat on the rack next to his and made my way over to the front desk. It was bigger than I'd given it credit for, and older, too. In the darkness of the front of the shop, it was easy to miss the details. But up close, it was spectacular. It was hand-carved oak and very intricate. At the corners, serpents ran in twined up sculpted columns as if they were supporting the entire thing themselves. It had 5 drawers, 2 large ones on either side and 1 long, slender drawer across the top middle. Each drawer had a tangle of vines carved into it, with a mythical-looking face at the center as its drawer pull. The face appeared to belong to an old man with a strong nose, furrowed brow, and a mustache that looked more like the flora around him than actual hair. Each drawer also had a keyhole. The drawers are all locked. Do not try to open them. Dr. Marlow droned, as if reading my thoughts. Please look here. He dropped a stack of papers on the desk in front of me. You'll need to sign it. It's your contract, liability waiver, and a general set of guidelines for running the Emporium should anything unusual occur. You'll get your own copy, don't worry. Shouldn't I read it first? I began to flip through the pages as he handed me a pen. If you must. As if anyone reads the terms and conditions anymore. Plus $70 an hour? My old job was awful and only paid $15 an hour. Anyway, there's a saying for people like me in times like these. Beggars, they can't be choosers. I didn't want to sign completely blind, though, so I quickly scanned a few pages. All the language around the shop was incredibly vague, and the only specifics were incredibly odd. They pertained mostly to one of 2 things. Various potential inquiries that, quite honestly, sounded completely made up, or issues pertaining to my soul. Again, none of the scenarios in here seemed at all possible, so I didn't really see the harm. The entire thing was so obscure, I figured it was part of the shtick. The weird number, the strange car, the mysterious Dr. Marlow, even the Gothic script welcome mat. It all just fit together so neatly. I don't know who Mr. Belial is, but he clearly has luxurious taste and a peculiar sense of humor. I eyed Dr. Marlow as I signed on the line, then slid the stack of papers over to him. Excellent, he cooed before separating the guidelines from the stack and sliding them back to me. You'll want to memorize those, he said while making his way to the coat rack. He grabbed his jacket, a dark gray trench coat, and put an arm through the sleeve. Wait, where are you going? I sputtered. Home. Where else? Well, what about me? What should I do? Your job. Read the guide. Everything you need to know is in there. Well, what if I have questions? It's best not to ask questions. Just read the guidelines. Follow the rules and you'll be fine. We made sure to schedule no appointments for this evening, so you won't have to deal with clients, just the animals. One thing at a time. The car will take you home in the morning, and don't worry, we'll be watching. He glanced up to the corner of the room, revealing a small security camera. And with that, he was gone. With Dr. Marlow gone, I did the only thing left to do. I looked at the guide. Mr. Belial's Emporium of Foul and Exotic Creatures. Hand Guide to Surviving the Night. An introduction. Welcome to Mr. Belial's Emporium of Foul and Exotic Creatures. If you're reading this, this is your first night of employment at the Emporium. Congratulations, you've been identified as someone with keen potential and an aptitude for the abnormal. Within this guide, you will find everything you need for any situation that should arise at the Emporium. Please do not lose the guide. You will likely not last very long in this position should you misplace this handbook. Your primary responsibility is to feed and care for the animals in accordance with the schedule. Secondarily, you will assist clientele who have made confirmed reservations and only those who have made confirmed reservations. Before beginning your responsibilities for the evening, please familiarize yourself with the rules. The rules. Laws of physics may or may not apply. Please keep this in mind. Do not leave the Emporium under any circumstances until your shift is over. To ensure you do not leave, the door will be locked after you enter and will not be unlocked again until your shift has ended. Do not open any of the desk drawers. The staff door at the back of the shop will let you into the kennels. Clients are never to be allowed to visit the kennels unattended. If a client has made an appointment, it will be for a specific time and in regard to a specific product. Their reservation will clearly state both. If they decide they'd like something else other than what they've come to inspect, they must make a separate appointment. The feeding schedule and details are posted on the back of the staff door. Always stick to the list. Check it every shift as animals, meal qualities, and serving types will change. Always feed the bats first, unless otherwise noted on the feedings schedule. You may use your phone while at the Emporium, but only for entertainment purposes when all tasks have been accomplished. You are not to record video or audio, and taking any photos of the establishment or its property will result in termination. More rules will be added to the list as you break them. The list of rules was, as you can see, less helpful than I would have hoped. I flipped to the next page. Blank. Just like the page after that, and the page after that, and so on and so forth until the end of the book. 400 pages, nearly all of them completely blank. So at that point, I did the only thing I could do. Start working.